tonight's political panel. Let's get right to it with former New York State Senator David Carlucci and Project 21 co-chair Horace Cooper. Thank you very much for both being here. And I just want to get back to President Biden and this description of military events in particular. We're not the only ones noticing this. In fact, the New York Times said, but just in October of this year, and this is a quote from a New York Times piece, his stories have been repeatedly and publicly challenged as far back as his 1987 campaign for president, when his attempts to adopt someone else's life story as his own and his false claims about his academic record forced him to withdraw. So, David, there's a history here.
Well, look, when we examine every word, every sentence that someone says, sure, there's going to be gaffes, there's going to be some misrepresentation. But let's remember, the president is wearing his heart on his sleeve. The speech he gave today at a National Guard center named after his late son, Beau Biden, in talking about trying to make sure that veterans understand what the PACT Act is, legislation that will provide veterans with much needed benefits that might have been exposed to open pit fires, burn pits in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in other parts of the world. So President Biden is putting his best foot forward, stepping up for our veterans. He's trying to connect with veterans there in that room, highly emotional. So if he has a few slip-ups, hey, that's not a problem with me. I don't think it's a problem with most of America. What's important is that he's delivering on substance, and he's proving that again and again, particularly with this legislation in the PACT Act. And what's important is that we get the message out that veterans that in the past that would have been denied at a 7 out of a 10 number will now have that reversed, where these people that have been victimized by this will now have benefits that will help them recover and live a healthy, productive life.
Yeah, I get you on the substance, but Horace, a few slip-ups, as David put it. Is that what we're seeing here? Is that what this is?
Look, what we have here is a record that has gone for a long time of falsehoods, telling lies, words and statements and claims that simply don't add up. Now, we could play the game of, well, he means well. When he names a bill that is all but the Green New Deal, the Inflation Reduction Act, was that just he means well? When he claims that gasoline prices, which have skyrocketed, occurred because of the conflict with Russia, is that supposed to be heartfelt? Is that supposed to be he means well? When he claims that he has personally already gone to the border and there's no evidence that he actually has taken a tour of the border, not as president, not as a candidate, not even as a senator, are we supposed to just let that slide? It sounds like what we're seeing is the fabulist in chief.
Okay, well, this all sets us up for my next point, which is what is going to happen come 2024. And interesting news that could affect that today. The January 6th committee is considering, and we'll likely hear from them on Monday, criminal referrals to the DOJ for former President Donald Trump. David, does that complicate even further Mr. Trump's launch of his new campaign? And does it embolden people like Ron DeSantis who might want to run against him?
Oh, I think people like Ron DeSantis are incredibly emboldened right now. They see an opening. They see the weakening of Donald Trump. I think Republicans, many of them are saying, hey, Donald Trump, who? I never supported him. That was 2020. Now people are looking to 2024. So I think what Donald Trump does is he really boosts the Democratic Party and he excites the Democratic base. So as long as Donald Trump is in the horizon, that's a real advantage to the Democrats and particularly to Joe Biden, who is the candidate that's proven to beat Donald Trump and will be that person that we look to again to do the same thing. So I think this is really troubling news for Donald Trump.
Let me
the
bring
Republican
Horace
Party.
back in here quickly, finally. Horace, could this criminal referral business backfire on Democrats in that voters might say you're looking backwards rather than forwards?
So this is the typical kind of overreach on the part of the left, and it is going to backfire. There are large numbers of Americans who've had some time, both while recovering from the pandemic restrictions, by stepping away from their job. They could have been free to watch these hearings. What we saw was a record low. People weren't interested. They didn't want to read stories about it. They didn't want to see it, news coverage. That the idea that this committee's report is somehow going to galvanize the election, dream on.
Okay, Horace Cooper and David Carlucci. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Fascinating to talk to you both tonight.